This program is brought to you by Dolco Media. Fixing South Sudan, ideas for the new nation. With award-winning journalist Mading Moore.
Absolutely.
Honorable Ashwin, as you can see, the ideas of the initiatives are varied.
On July 8th, the clashes in J1 took place, which was very unfortunate.
Including country-specific ones, which
and the rebellion continue to be
Fixing South Sudan, ideas for the new nation.
Hello and welcome to Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. I am Mading Moore. This week on Fixing South Sudan, an update about the Japanese support to the Republic of South Sudan. When will JICA return to the country? How is Japan helping in the peace process? And is Japanese support a good idea for fixing South Sudan? Joining us for the show is Excellency Seiji Okada, the incoming Japanese ambassador to the Republic of South Sudan, the new Kia Masahiko. Ambassador, it warms my heart to welcome you to Fixing South Sudan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
I'm just fine, thank you.
So, Fixing South Sudan is a program that engages policymakers and explores the ideas for South Sudan. In this case, the Japanese idea is support to South Sudan.
Yes.
So we'll explore your support. And since your predecessor, Ambassador Kia Masahiko, the first foreign diplomat to ever appear on this program, has left a lot of positive imprints in the everyday life of the people of this nation. And since his tour of duty ended, some people have been asking whether you, the new ambassador, will be like him and pursue the same policies of extending unconditional support to South Sudan. What is your take?
Well, thank you very much for the introduction. And my name is Seiji Okada, the new ambassador to South Sudan. Before I come to Juba as an ambassador, I was back in Tokyo, headquarters. And I was working as the Deputy Assistant Minister covering South Sudan in Tokyo. So when my predecessor, Kia, was working in Juba, that time I was working in Tokyo with him. We were just talking to each other about the policy of South Sudan, our support policy to South Sudan. So in that sense, I'm quite familiar with the situation in South Sudan. Then I came here as ambassador, and my predecessor went back to Tokyo, and he took over my position. So we just simply swapped.
So you are twins.
Yeah,
two faces
well,
of the same coin.
in terms of the our work on South Sudan, yes, we are working very closely all the time.
And as you were based in Tokyo, you had an opportunity to come here a number of times.
Yes, I visited South Sudan a couple of times, from Tokyo. So your question about our support, the support of the government of Japan to South Sudan, there are various kind of support. Japan is strongly committed to support the South Sudan.
We will talk about the support, but what is your impression so far? You have been on the ground for only about 4 months or 5 months.
Yes.
What's your impression so far?
Well, actually, one of the biggest concern of us, when we talk about support, JICA or whatever, most important thing is the security of the country. Under the condition of the insecure environment, it's very difficult for many, for most of the donor to implement their policy. So having said that, I visited Juba, from Tokyo, like you said, a couple of times. The purpose was to evaluate the security situation in Juba and South Sudan.
Was this after the 2016 violence?
Yes, exactly. Then, in November, I came here as an ambassador, and a resident ambassador here. Then, my impression is, the security, particularly in Juba, is dramatically improving. That's my impression. But still, you see that there are some problems, not only in the local communities area. So that's my impression. But again, that the good news is, at least in Juba, I live in Juba for 4 months now, but I don't see any major kind of problem in the incident in Juba. So I'm very glad to see that.
You have had an opportunity to travel widely across the nation. What's your take on this thing called South Sudan? Having been to many of these states.
Yes, I visited, a couple of the local communities such as Yambio, Nimle, Awel, Wau, and the northern part of South Sudan as well. The purpose of my trip, to these community is, we are engaging in many projects, with the international partner, But the important thing is, okay, we fund them. We make a kind of project proposal, and we fund the implementing agencies. But the important thing is, I have to visit and have to see what's really, the implementation of the program itself. It's very important for me to see and evaluate the effect of a support. That's why I'm trying to visit, as much as possible, to many, different communities in South Sudan.
Can you quantify Japanese support in terms of dollars to South Sudan? How much are we talking about?
Well, there are two kinds of support from Japan when you talk about support from Japan to South Sudan. One support is also through the JICA, is one aspect, and the other one is the more direct, support from the government directly to South Sudan with the international the partners. Particularly this year, just recently, a couple of weeks ago, we announced the support of $34 million support in the next 12 months. It's a one-year project, So we do work with many international organizations to implement that project within that $34 million.
So how much of it is humanitarian and how much of it is developmental?
Well, actually, that's another important point. Our policy of support to South Sudan is, we have to do it in a balanced manner. That means, of course, you need a humanitarian aid, of course. But at the same time, we do believe capacity building, human resource development is another important factor for this country. And also the development is also the important, the factor. So we cover all these three areas in a balanced manner. So we try to equally, allocate our fund to these three areas.
Let's talk about this question that you are getting all over the place. And at your National Day reception speech last December, 5th December, you said this, and I quote, "The centerpiece of JICA assistance is the construction of fundamental social and economic infrastructure, such as Freedom Bridge, the Juba water supply, and the Juba River Port, all of which unfortunately have been suspended since July 2016. As ambassador to the Republic of South Sudan, I strongly feel the necessity and responsibility of bringing back JICA to Juba and resume and complete our suspended projects as soon as possible." How soon is JICA coming back possible?
Yes.
How soon is it possible?
Well, actually, that's our strong commitment, And even when I told you that I traveled from Tokyo to Juba, even before I come to Juba as an ambassador, the purpose of that trip from Tokyo to Juba then was to evaluate the security situation in Juba. That time we are engaging strongly. We're discussing in Tokyo when and how we bring the JICA back here. So one of the biggest issues is the security. That was August last year. So I came here and I went back to Tokyo, and I reported, the security situation is good, really good for them to come back. So then I came here as an ambassador in November, I just keep telling it to Tokyo. And the good thing is now to bring them back here, we have a the travel advisory, for the Japanese national, wherever you go, that we have a travel advisory. And then since the 2016 incident here, our travel advisory of Juba and South Sudan is the highest. That means we strongly discourage, any Japanese national to travel to that country. But now, based on our evaluation of the situation in Juba, particularly, in December last year, we just lowered that travel advisory. That means JICA can come back.
Is there an incident that has happened to make Japan to be very risk averse? What kind of incident has led to such kind of a rigorous policy on security?
Well, actually, of course, you recall that the incident in July 2016. It's a very serious issue. That time, by that time that the JICA was here and some Japanese national were engaging in the construction of the bridge and the water supply system. But because of that insecurity then, they had to evacuate from Juba. So it's a pity. But again, that, as I told you, now our evaluation of security is kind of the security situation is relatively good in Juba. So we decided to lower that travel advisory. So that means, the JICA, it's an environment that JICA can come back. So now JICA is preparing to come back, to open the office again in Juba.
So do you consider sufficient security to be sufficient or maximum security? Which is which?
Well, actually, of course, any city in the world, there's always there's some problem. But in here, Juba is again at the level of the security is relatively good. That's why we decided, to lower that travel advisory so that JICA can come back here. I told you that now they are really preparing to come back.
They are preparing and give us a time frame.
Well, actually, that's a matter of their preparation because they have to prepare something to come back. See? So I think, I'm talking with the JICA. Then as soon as they complete their preparation, they can come back here. Sometimes, the March, April, it's quite possible.
And so when we talk about the support that you are giving to South Sudan, is it the kind of support that is building the resilience of the country? Is it sustainable support? Again,
as I told you, that there are three areas we're covering. First of all, the humanitarian aid, of course, it's important. But if you see the sustainability of this country, we also emphasize the need of the human capacity building. It's very important because South Sudan is one of the youngest countries in the world. See? And nation building is a very, very difficult thing, and at the same time, very important. The base of the nation building is, of course, we believe that human resources. You have to have a good system of the country, but at the same time, you have to have a knowledge or expertise to handle that system. From that point of view, we are very much focusing on the necessity of the human capacity building. And you have some support to the economic sector. Oh yes, of course, economic sector, the economic development is very important. For example, that the bridge water system is also kind of very key infrastructure for the economic development of this country. At the same time, also, we believe that that kind of infrastructure will contribute to achieve the peace as well in here. Because economy and peace is imperative. They always link to each other. You have a good, stable economy, the more chance, to achieve the peace. You have also been prioritizing the revenue authorities in some states. Can you tell us about your experience? Yes. Again, the government system is a very important. Particularly, in the process of nation building, you have to have a very solid foundation of as a government of the government, and the revenue is very important, you know. But sometimes the people misunderstand. Japan is supporting revenue authority. Is sometimes helping the government to suck the money from people to the government. No, it's on the contrary. You know, to manage the government, in any case, you need a funding, you need a resource to do so. But the very important thing is, in any country, the same story. The tax system is a very, very key issue. And my message, whenever I go, when I went to the Yambio and you know, to attend the inauguration of the tax revenue office, just recently in Juba, also attended the inauguration of the tax revenue, state revenue authority of Juba. Then I always say in tax system, there are three important, you know, the principle. First thing is accountability, of course. Please do not misunderstand. Tax is the money, not to the government. It's the money, the funding to the people. The government is simply a servicing agencies. They collect tax from the people. They use that tax for the service to the people.
So transparency is key.
Yes, transparency is very key. And also the fairness, you know, you have to the tax has to be very fair to everybody. That means, if someone has some complaint, everyone, even me, I don't like to pay tax. But we pay tax. There's a belief because all these tax is used for me in the future. That's why people pay tax.
And so that's what you are supporting.
That's right. And the third point is again as kind of benefit to the people. Again, okay. The tax needs maybe the road service to construct the road or any infrastructure or whatever. They need the kind of tax source. That's why we are kind of supporting to make a very good, solid, tax system in accountable manner in this country.
Ambassador, let's take a break from you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Dolco Media Services. We have so many services for you, such as video production, camera hiring, sound system hiring, event management, passport photo, stand-up comedy, printing, drama, music, dance, multimedia, and photography. Dolco Media Services, our culture, our pride.
Welcome back to Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. I am Adingor, and with us is His Excellency Seiji Okada, the new Japanese ambassador to the Republic of South Sudan. Let's talk about Japan's support to the peace process. And in town, there are two vehicles. There is the high-level revitalization forum, and then there is the national dialogue. Mm-hmm. One is a hammer, and the other one is a V8. Mm-hmm. So, talking about your support to the peace process, how are you treating the two processes?
Well, actually, we believe that these two processes, the high-level revitalization forum and national dialogue, are equally important. That's our stance. From that point of view, that's the high-level revitalization forum, which was led by the IGAD. We are contributing their process. Sense. Because Japan is not a member of the IGAD, of course, but still we see the importance of the process, and we are funding, IGAD with the $3.6 million just recently, for that process. At the same time, the national dialogue is a very important initiative, we believe, because this national dialogue is an initiative by the South Sudanese themselves. So from that point of view, also, we see the merit or the importance of the process, and we're helping, to organize the dialogue. So we're funding the of course, again, to national dialogue with the UNDP. We are working with the UNDP to support national dialogue.
As well, you are also supporting JMAC for the implementation of the agreement.
The JMAC and Citizen as well.
And so when you look at the high-level revitalization forum, the last round broke down, there was no agreement. Is that a disappointment for Japan?
Well, it's still in the process. You know, they had just 2 rounds of meeting so far, and the third round of meeting is scheduled sometimes end of this month or early next month. You know, they will see, but you know, the encouraging thing is, although there are some, you know, the difference of the opinion in that meeting, but good news is no one is walking out. You know, still they're working together, and that's the process. They keep talking. It's a very good sign. So my strong hope is at some point they will agree upon the meeting. But the important thing is to keep, you know, continue to talk. You know, it's more important. At the same time, national dialogue is also important. You know, high-level revitalization forum is a kind of a meeting with the high level, with the high-level people.
The elite.
Yes, but at the same time, the peace process in South Sudan, you know, everyone has to be involved in South Sudan. From that point of view, the national dialogue is also a very important process, I believe.
And when you look at the national dialogue, you're talking beyond just the steering committee. The network of civil society groups that are on the ground and which you are supporting.
Yes, when we decided to support, you know, national dialogue, there's a kind of big discussion in Tokyo as well. When I was in Tokyo, you know, some other international communities are kind of skeptical about the future of the procedure of the national dialogue. But we believe that it's a national dialogue. So when we decide to support that process, you know, working with the UNDP with some kind of a, you know, sort of condition, you know, that our support has to be used for the grassroots dialogue. So since I came here, attended, you know, the mini meeting of the national dialogue. You know, one meeting was a kind of women's group. You know, they got together in Juba. They just talked about, you know, and also I attended the meeting with the media, you know, to discuss about freedom of speech in the process of national dialogue. And also I'm talking to the steering committee people as well. So I'm quite happy to see that our support is actually really kind of used for that kind of very grassroots, you know, dialogue here in South
So the
Sudan.
key principles which you had set in place for the national dialogue, accountability, transparency, and credibility are being met.
Yes.
And when you put your money in something, when you invest in something, it means you have a vested interest in that thing. What is Japanese interest?
Japanese interest in South Sudan? Well, actually, in economical term, you said investment. You know, well, of course, it's true. But you know, our investment to South Sudan is the kind of future, you know, the peace, you know, stability of South Sudan. You know, have you heard the word TICAD? TICAD is the Japanese the policy, the big policy on Africa, Tokyo International Conference for African Development. It's a very big the policy conference of Japan to Africa. And before I come here, I was ambassador of TICAD. And in TICAD, what we are discussing with African leaders is, you know, for the development of Africa. So now the important message from Japan to Africa, and also that is a kind of request from Africa as well. You know, the ODA, Official Development Assistance, is a very important tool for the development of the African continent. But, you know, nowadays, you know, we are more focusing on the, you know, private sector investment into African continent. If you have more investment from a private sector, that's really bring a real kind of economic development. It's a very important aspect. So in the future, for the economic development of this country, South Sudan, I really hope that the private business people will come into South Sudan for the business. That means that kind of investment really kind of bring the real economic development in South Sudan. But unfortunately now the South Sudan is not in that stage yet. So you have to achieve a peace first. So that's why now Japan is really sort of supporting the South Sudan for the future kind of economic prosperity in this country.
And
yes.
Your last thoughts on the peace process. When we talk about the high-level revitalization forum, what outcome would you like to be achieved there?
In particularly that in the high-level revitalization forum, they are discussing, based on the 2015 agreement. You see? So they understand now the two big feature is kind of the government structure and your kind of the military structure is a key issue they are discussing. So in that case, I hope they will agree on, in a technical term, to have this solid, stable government as well as a military structure here. But having all said, my impression here is now that the high-level revitalization forum is talking about based on that the agreement. The agreement is based on the coexistence of the different parties in South Sudan. That's okay to have the stable government. But more fundamental issue here in South Sudan to achieve the real peace is I strongly believe the very important issue here is social cohesion in the country, or social cohesion or national identity of the people is more important. Then from that point of view, that national dialogue is one of the key process to achieve that people's kind of the change of the people's mindset, to have more pride as a South Sudanese, not as a kind of specific tribal, the identity, but rather I really hope that you or your people in South Sudan have a kind of strong identity as a South Sudanese.
So national dialogue is going smoothly by your estimation. Do you have some sort of a deadline for it, or a time frame in which you would like it to conclude? No,
it's really up to you. The Japan is simply supporting your process, but all the kind of process and deadline, timeline, whatever, have to be decided by yourself. Our hope is again that at the end of the day, the people in South Sudan, through the national dialogue, will have a very satisfactory, kind of outcome for everybody.
Okay, and so as long as the need is there, the financial support will be availed.
For the national dialogue, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, so that's why we are supporting now, but I'm not sure how long it continues, but we continue to support, that national dialogue if necessary. So we see, we have to see your process first.
The theme of this show is fixing South Sudan. What's your, do you think South Sudan can be fixed?
I mean, fix means
making it a better place.
Oh yes, surely, yes. You have to do that, and that's the most important thing in South Sudan. Then that's why the Japan and the international community is really supporting, South Sudan. The purpose is only one, to fix, in your term, to fix South Sudan by yourself.
And part of your contribution can fix South Sudan.
Well,
you
we
play
hope,
a contributory
yes,
role.
yes, we really hope that our contribution will be part of the help to fix your country.
Now, South Sudan is not Japan. In developmental terms, Japan enjoys a high standard of living and is the third largest economy in the world. South Sudan is nowhere. What can South Sudan do to be like Japan? Is that possible?
Of course, it's possible, but you see, the Japan now is not achieved in a few years. You see the history of Japan. We have a history of over 2,000 years in history. During our history, there are so many conflict, the difficulty as well. Well, just recently we experienced, even in within 100 years, we experienced many big wars, and we experienced just recently. You remember that, after the World War II. This is only 5 years ago. Japan is totally devastated. See, so we experienced many difficulties in our history. So as a result of that difficulty, we try to recover. So then we have Japan now. But you see, the South Sudan, as I told you, is a young country. It's 7 years history. So I know that you have many struggle for the nation building. But in the future, of course, you can make a very good, solid country.
From Japan's long history, what is the takeaway for South Sudan? What is one thing you would say, if South Sudan does it, South Sudan will be fixed?
Again, at this moment, as I told you, it's the social cohesion. People have to understand you are the South Sudanese. You have to work together, among yourself. At the same time, I think for the future of the country, the education is the key. That's a lesson we learned from our history. Japan is a country which has no natural resources. In that sense, you're lucky. You have the rich oil and minerals, but Japan has nothing. You see, only resources we have in Japan is the human resources. That's why the government in Japan very much focused on the education, from the past. That's why going back to our support to South Sudan, that we are very much focusing on the capacity building of this country. It's a very key. There's a very famous story in Japan, almost 100 years ago. That time there was a kind of rivalry, even among in Japan, some warlords fighting each other. Then one clan had a real difficulty, economically. So they got a support from the other group. They got a contribution of the huge amount of the food, the rice, of course. Then the story is when they got the contribution, the support with rice. Of course, everybody expected all these the food that can be distributed to everyone. But the leader then said, no, we don't, give that rice to you. Instead, he said, we have to use this rice. We have to sell. Then get the money. Then we have to build a school. You see, that's
so education is important.
Yes, because food, if you eat it, it's gone.
Yes.
But if you do invest for the education, that will be kind of it's a future investment. See, that's kind of famous story in Japan, and so I think
and South Sudan can learn from that.
Yes, well, in a sense, yes.
Education
is very, yes.
Ambassador Seiji Okada, thanks for being on Fixing South Sudan.
Thank you very much.
Salam